My name is Catherine Carson, and I will be presenting the communication theory of organizational culture. The research presented will identify and define the communication theory of organizational culture and outline the processes used to shape organizational culture. We'll focus on communication that's used through controlled networks to encourage engagement, high levels of trust, relationship development, and employee input. The research will substantiate the claim that healthy organizational cultures can be developed with time and energy. Emphasis will be given to the formal communication patterns that exist within hierarchical controlled organizations, as well as the patterns that exist in flattened or decentralized communications or decentralized organizations. Several communication theorists as well as studies are used in the research to strengthen and validate the findings for a healthy organizational culture. Walt Disney once said, "You can dream, create, design, and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it requires people to make the dream a reality." The dynamic and diverse group at Walt Disney World attribute their success to their organizational culture or their inclusive environment that creates creativity, creates ideas, and creates perspectives from everyone, regardless of their status in the organization. Each executive that comes on board at Walt Disney World goes through an experience where they dress up as Donald Duck, Captain Hook, or any of the characters, and they actually are involved in the parade down Main Street. And this gives them a first-hand account of the wonder and amazement that is expressed in the children who go to this amazing parade. And Walt Disney Company believes that engaging in this activity is one of the many ways employees can understand the true purpose of the work. And this helps to shape the overall culture and the corporate environment at Walt Disney World. Each organization has its own culture, and it's unique to that organization. And this culture is experienced through behaviors, meanings, and values that are shared within it. I am going to define, explain, and explore the theory known as organizational culture. This is found in the socio-cultural tradition of communication. I'll explain how communication shapes healthy organizational culture throughout networks created by formal techniques as well as informal interactions. And this will help demonstrate that a healthy organizational culture can exist. And it will exist where there are authentic relationships built on trust, where input is encouraged from all levels within the organization. And this will show that these organizations have the highest levels of employee engagement. Organization is basically cooperation in society where structure and functions exist as a rationale system to create shared ideas, mutual influence, and outputs. And this can be classified as organization. Culture is basically the network of knowledge shared collectively through common interactions of a group of people. Some describe culture as being made up of interconnected people who have shared symbols, experiences, meanings, artifacts, constructs, instructions, interests, that kind of thing. Using the definitions presented for organization and for culture, it would stand to reason that there could be something called organizational culture. So what exactly is organizational culture? Well, organizational culture is the soul and spirit of the organization. It includes all the aspects of organizational behavior, the beliefs, the assumptions, the mission, the vision, the values, the underlying philosophy of management. It includes the systems, the structures, the formal and the informal. It really encompasses the authority structures, the groups, the team dynamics, really everything. Organizational culture is what people describe as the way we do things around here. There are many studies on organizational culture, and there's no one right or wrong definition, but ultimately organizational culture is measured in relation to the success that the organization is seeking to achieve. Let's talk about communication. There are a number of effective communication practices that shape organizational culture. Rituals are things that are repeated or routine. Passion, they add spice and flavor to the everyday interaction. Sociality refers to the way employees set up social rules like cordiality or confession or joviality. Organizational politics are the communication practices that reinforce power or influence. And finally, enculturation is the way organizational members teach the culture to others. Everyday interactions from all levels of employees in the organization work to establish these systems of control. Thompson, Cheney, and other colleagues define this control in 5 dimensions. We'll talk about those quickly. Those dimensions were simple, technical, bureaucratic, cultural, and conservative. Simple control is open or legitimate, and it's the legitimate type of power or control. Technical comes through the use of technology or knowledge from technology. Bureaucratic control is the more formal and rules-based control that we've already talked about. Cultural control is based on the values, the interests, the ideas that are shared among employees. Conservative control is actually the most influential because it uses teamwork, relationships, collaboration, and open idea sharing. So what does it mean to be truly engaged? Well, people want to know that they're part of something bigger. They want to understand that their input really does make a difference. And if employees feel like their ideas and thoughts are being ignored, they're going to be discouraged, disengaged, and disillusioned. Building trust is a process of organizational communication, and it's developed and cultivated through these relationships. These relationships bring balance to the organization. Innovative solutions can come from all levels within the organization. In fact, many times the most creative solutions come from those who are on what's called the fringe of the organization. And those are people who may not necessarily be in the full structure formally, but those input ideas can come from all levels. And so dedicating time for creative input and collaboration signals to employees that their ideas are worthwhile and important. Throughout this research, there have been many theorists and studies that have proven how we can create effective and successful organizational cultures. But I would like to challenge us to think from a biblical worldview and understand that the healthiest model for organizational cultures can be found in the absolute authority of Scripture. Just like the Lord said to Joshua before he was to enter the promised land, being careful to do according to all the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from the right or the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. Success for a believer is not measured according to the world's view, but it's God-sized. And so we can apply this to organizational culture and understand that this success individually as well as in the cultures we're involved in organizationally come from God, and it's Christians who are called to be and practice a lifestyle of obedience to God through their communication practices. This truly sets up the most successful organizational cultures. In order to experience this